Caitlin Clark is 23 years old today. She's the most popular female athlete in America, one of the most popular athletes in America, period. Arguably, maybe you could argue she's the most popular athlete, or certainly the most celebrated and discussed of the past year, being named Time Magazine's Athlete of the Year and so on and so forth. How do you feel someone like Caitlin Clark could figure into this? Does she have a responsibility to advocate for younger women? And what kind of an asset could someone like Caitlin Clark be to the movement that is so important that you speak of?
Yeah, you use that word responsibility, and it's a pretty heavy word on this topic, right? Like, is she someone who is responsible? And to answer pretty plainly, I would say she does have a responsibility. Her and many other athletes with huge platforms, both male and female for that matter. People like Serena Williams, people like Angel Reese even. I would love to see even male players, football players in the NFL who are willing to take a stand and say, hey, look, I've got daughters. So I do think there's a bit of a responsibility there. And I will say I'm a huge Caitlin Clark fan, okay? I know a lot of people on the right decided to disavow her and distance themselves for her and stop being her fan recently, especially after basically apologizing for being white, which I do believe is just silly and kowtowing to the left and the narrative that they push. But nonetheless, I'm a huge Caitlin Clark fan. The impact that she could have is the impact it would take millions of us to have. If she were to say, look, NCAA, what are you doing? Right? Like, I'm a Big Ten record setter, NCAA record setter. I hold all my school records. What are you doing here? The NCAA would have changed their policies yesterday. It takes someone with that kind of platform to really push and bring this to the forefront of the conversation. So I would love to see it. I don't know if that's overly, if that's a possibility at the moment, just with everything going on. She seems to be rubbing shoulders with Taylor Swift. I don't know what that means. I could care less about her politics. Again, I think we've even seen Angel Reese, who I don't think we agree politically on most things, but I admire her. There was a reporter who got on the floor after a game and he said, hey, what do you think of Kamala Harris? She's a black woman like yourself and she's shattering glass ceilings. What do you think about her? And Angel Reese answered perfectly. She says, look, I'm not overly educated on the topic. I encourage you to do your own research. I'm gonna do mine, and we'll leave it at that. And I thought that was a perfect answer. So I think there's a line to walk without being too political, but while still standing up for girls and women, because I don't think that's a political issue. I think that's a humanitarian issue. I think this is the civil rights issue of our time.
Yeah, it is hard to believe that this is where we're at, that it takes this much just to kind of acknowledge what is right under our noses. And you've talked about the importance of having advocates in this progressive movement, as you describe it. Martina Navratilova is one who, while certainly not a conservative, Martina has been increasingly outspoken about this. Here's a tweet from Martina Navratilova saying, how do you fight for women when you cannot define what a woman is? Answer, you can't. And if you can't define what a woman is, you'll lose many Democratic women, myself included, as voters. And this comes from someone, Martina, I believe, no fan of OutKick, no fan of Donald Trump, but Martina, again, the common sense is obviously working with Martina as she processes the absurdity of this all. How is it crucial for folks like Martina who maybe, aren't necessarily in agreement with the cultural values that you share otherwise, but who can find common ground with you on a common sense matter such as this?
It's huge. And yeah, like you said, Martina and I, we don't agree on virtually any other topic. But nonetheless, I consider her a friend. She's someone I've been able to spend some time around now, be able to develop a relationship with. And we've certainly had our fair share of back and forth on X on things we're disagreeing with. Things like the Project 2025 hoax. She tweeted yesterday about the bishop at the church service that Trump went to that, there was no gender talk in this church service. I mean, so there are definitely things we do not agree on. But that's the beautiful thing about this issue in particular. And again, I would say the gender ideology movement as a whole, whether it's sports, whether it's the medicalization, really the chemical and surgical castration of children, whatever it may be, I guess, advancement of DEI over meritocracy. All of these things are really a unifying issue. And you and I both know that's rare in the world of politics. Not that I believe this issue should be a political one. It's inevitable, of course, that it has become one, that it will remain one. But it's rare for 80+% of the country to agree on a political issue. But that's what this is. And so it shows you. I've talked to so many people like Martina, people who call themselves even lifelong liberals, people who voted for Joe Biden in 2020, people who are a part of the LGBTQ community, even many people in the transgender community who identify as trans themselves, who say, look, this has gone too far. I just want to live my life, like you said in the intro. And I think if it was left at that, there wouldn't be the cultural chaos that has ensued since. But they've gone after the kids. They've infringed on women's rights. They're entering themselves into women's prisons, women's locker rooms, women's domestic violence shelters. And that's where we draw the line. Enough is enough. And I think that's the beauty of it. We're getting lots of voices, unexpected voices, even people like Caitlyn Jenner on our side who are saying, enough is enough. I won't stand for it.
I think you make a great point there. We do ourselves a disservice sometimes when we see everything through the political prism. And people sometimes, they sort of retrofit their opinion to what they think their opinion is supposed to be when they look around and they evaluate what the others in their tribe seem to think, whether that's on the left or whether that's on the right. I've always said I'm a political independent. I look at the issues and then I go where I think common sense leads me. And if that happens to be with the Democrats on some issues, then that's where I'll be on that particular issue. And if it happens to be with the Republicans on other issues, that's where I'll be. I think fundamentally, Riley, you said it best. It's a common sense matter. And of course, anyone, you don't have to be female, right? I've got 5 daughters. So anyone who has an investment in the welfare and what is good and right and fair for females in our society, that's half of our society, I think has a vested interest in this, because all that we really ask for, I think, in our society, all that we should really be striving for is just fundamental fairness, opportunity, and equality, and not these forced outcomes that we're seeing with DEI and, shoehorning people into women's athletics who, frankly, enter into it with an unfair competitive advantage that just makes the competition no longer what it was intended to be. An opportunity. Stop it,
Ricky. You're making women. Too much sense.
Well, again here, but just listening to what you're saying, I think it's just that is what it is. It is common sense. If you don't look at it as a political issue, it suddenly becomes very, very simple. Riley, before you get out of here this morning, I just wanted to ask you, obviously Donald Trump inaugurated on Monday. We've got the Lake and Riley Act, which is, really the first win there for the Trump administration, the Protection of Women and Girls in Sports Act. I guess my concern with the act is we only saw 2 Democrats move across the aisle. And while you said it's an 80% issue, which is about as close as you're going to come to unanimity in our country on anything. If I said, hey, who wants pizza? I'd probably get 5 out of 5, but there might be somebody, right? So you're never going to get 100% of people in on anything. Even though we see that, how do you explain the fact that women in sports in the House, it was pretty much just party lines there. Only 2 people moving from the Dem side to the Republican side. Otherwise, voting straight down party lines. What has to happen for the dam to break? And Democrats who I have to believe behind closed doors, there are many Democrats in the House who know and believe, and they're not voting that way. What has to happen for the public sentiment to be reflected in Congress?
I think two things, one of two things. Number one, they have to keep losing, right? Clearly, I thought November 5th would be a good lesson. I thought that would give them the support and the stability to recant from their previous, from their voting record, from their previous position and allow them to stand firm in the fact that men cannot become women. Clearly, November 5th taught them nothing. So I think that either they have to keep losing, which, be my guest, keep doing this stupid stuff. Keep comparing an autistic man's heartfelt sentiment to hailing Hitler. Keep doing that and see what happens, because really you're only helping those of us who possess sanity and rationality and logic and common sense. So by all means, I guess. Or secondly, we have to see women continue to be injured in their sports. We have to see women continue to lose out. We have to see women who continue to be violated and exploited and exposed in locker rooms, which is pretty tragic that's what it takes. But it's what I hear all the time. These Democrats, they say it's not really happening. We don't have to worry about this. Why would we, this is a solution in search of a problem. So I think they want to see girls get hurt, and I hope women are listening, because the message that sends to me as a woman who, of course, was negatively impacted by this movement is that I don't matter, is that my safety doesn't matter, my opportunities don't matter, my privacy in areas of undressing doesn't matter, my dignity, being able to call myself a champion, that doesn't matter to the Democrats, and it doesn't matter for your daughter either. They don't care about your daughter, they don't care about girls, they don't care about women, which is ironic because it's literally all they had to run on the entire, that's the only issue that Kamala Harris was passionate about during the election, was women's rights, reproductive freedom. First of all, they don't care about healthcare freedom, bodily autonomy, considering these are the same tyrants who forced healthcare workers and school teachers and U.S. military members to get an under-researched, ineffective vaccine. And if you didn't, you were ousted from your job. These people don't care about healthcare freedom, and they certainly don't care about women. They've made that very clear in their voting record on the Lake and Riley Act, like you said, the Violence Against Women by Illegal Aliens Act, the Protection of Women and Girls in Sports Act, the list goes on. These people hate women, actually. I would say they have a pretty deep contempt and disdain for women.
Riley, you mentioned COVID. You have an issue pertaining to the COVID shot going on in your own family right now. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
It's wild. I've been married almost 3 years. I'm married to an immigrant. I call him every day. I call him an alien, which he, of course, just laughs at. I'm married to an alien, but he, of course, is here legally. He did it the right way. We met in college. He also was an athlete at University of Kentucky. We've been married 3 years, and the government will not give him his green card because he will not get the COVID vaccine. Crazy in the year 2025. They're still mandating this ineffective vaccine that the CDC has already proven does not work. The mask, the social distancing, the contact tracing, all of that has been disproven by the CDC, by Fauci himself. But nonetheless, USCIS, or Immigration Services, is forcing it on my husband. We've spent tens of thousands of dollars on lawyers, immigration lawyers, and fees, and these forms you have to submit, and all of the appeals, all for it to expire on their time anyway. So we've had to go back and redo it all. It is the most nonsensical process. And so while, of course, I think majority of Americans agree that our immigration system as it pertains to illegal immigrants needs to be reformed, oh my gosh, I am a testament to how our immigration system as it pertains to legal immigrants who are doing it the right way, who are hardworking, tax-paying, American-loving patriots who desperately wanted to vote for Donald Trump, mind you, it needs to be reformed for them as well.
Is that something that Trump can address? Did you have an opportunity to talk about that with Donald Trump and get some kind of feedback on it?
Yes, it's underway. So good things to come in the future for these mandated vaccines, crazy stuff.
All right. Well, certainly good luck to you and your husband with that. And even though I went to Western Kentucky undergrad and I went to the University of Louisville for my master's degree, I'm going to say to you as you leave this morning what my grandfather always used to say to me growing up: go Big Blue.
Go Big Blue. I love it. I love it. Well, thank you, Ricky. I
Riley,
appreciate
thank
it.
you so much. It's about time we sat down
I
and
know
did
it.
this. And of course, we'll
do it
love
again
to have you
soon.
back anytime. All right.
Absolutely.
Sounds good. Keep up the fight. Thank you, Riley.
No doubt.
All right. Riley Gaines right there. And from one great individual from the state of Tennessee, we're going to go to another great individual in the state of Tennessee. I speak, of course, of the international streaming star who joins me now from Nashville, Ronnie T-Shirts. And Ronnie, you had an opportunity there to listen to Riley Gaines, who has become such an eloquent and influential voice.
Amazing.
In our public discourse in a short time, from just being a student athlete at the University of Kentucky. What were your thoughts on what Riley had to say this morning?
I hope Riley watches this back just to, I know I like to watch back and see how I did and go over things that I said. And Riley, if you're watching this, as a dad of a girl that was an athlete, thank you for what you're doing, because I would just hope that had my daughter been faced with the same thing that you dealt with, she would have handled it with the same grace and compassion. And it just, you're doing an awesome job. And as a dad of a girl athlete, thank you.
ELGSES, Eagles! Let's go, Birds!
Oh, there's the mayor of Philadelphia leading a Let's Go Eagles chant, saying ELGSES. That's Elgsus is what I'm getting there. I think that she needed to buy a vowel, quite frankly. There wasn't even an A in there. A little bit all over the place, but you gotta like the enthusiasm anyway, I suppose. I almost got canceled there by my own team. Did you see that? I was gone for a second. That was the most beautiful that this broadcast has looked in recent minutes there. But you're not going to get too much of a break from my mug. Take a look at this. Maybe what the mayor needed was an incentive to practice her spelling, like we used to get when I was a kid. The day in 1982, some kid studied his ass off to make 100% on his spelling test, only to receive a sticker that smelled like a fucking pickle. Scratch and sniff stickers were the fucking best. I'm here to tell you. And it was an incentive. You'd wait. At least I would back in the day at Caverna Elementary School. You'd wait for the test or the quiz or whatever to get passed back. And you were hoping that you did well enough that you would get a scratch and sniff sticker. And, ooh, what am I going to get? I can guarantee you that I wasn't rooting to get a pickle, however. But, that being what it is. Ronnie T-Shirts. Ronald, are you a good speller, Ron?
Ronald,
If we had a spelling bee, how would you stack up, do you think?
I am an atrocious speller to the point where I find it almost embarrassing. Like I want to use a word when I'm sending an email to a client, and for whatever reason, it's just not autocorrecting. And I'll either look it up or I'll just say screw it and try to figure out another way to say what that word is. I'm terrible. And it's funny because when I was a kid, my mom was a librarian, and so we had to in the summer we always had to read a book and do book reports, but we also had spelling tests. And we had to do like 10 words, and if we did good, then we'd get, I don't know, a quarter, and we'd get to go to the little general store. And
this is your mom giving you spelling tests just like as a parent at home?
In the summer,
is
yeah.
this,
I mean,
she was what you're referring to?
Yeah, she was a librarian at an elementary school, so it's kind of it's just in the summer, just so like summer wasn't all just going to the swimming pool and doing stuff outside, keeping our mind a little bit fresh.
There's nothing wrong with it. I'm not knocking your mom. I'm just clarifying that she was giving you a little extra instruction.
Yeah. And so I started off great, and over the years, oh wow. And I'm really bad on words that I've never written before. Like I can read the word broccoli, but I can't spell it because I've never written the word broccoli. So I kind of know how to spell it, but I don't know how to spell it exactly. I always ask Lori how to
Ron,
spell
have
stuff.
you ever been trying to spell something and you're missing it so much, all you're trying to do is get close enough that spell check knows what the fuck you're talking about so it can help you?
So daily, literally daily.
Sometimes I'm just trying to get on the green so that spell check knows how to help me. And spell check's like, you dumb motherfucker, I have no idea what you're talking about. Ron, here's one of my favorite things. We didn't get to this yesterday, and I said to Tim, hey, look, are we going to be able to do this tomorrow? Because God bless John Fetterman. Did you see John Fetterman at the inauguration?
I called Lori
Ronnie,
in
take a look
to
at
look
this.
at it. I called Lori in to look at the TV. I go, look at this.
Take a look at this, will you? John Fetterman rolling up to the inauguration. He's underdressed to go to the mailbox, Ron. He's going to the inauguration. He looks like me rolling up to the community college to teach my classes. That's pretty similar. That is my teaching attire right there. That my dean didn't like very much, called me one day and said, Ricky, the way that you're dressing. And I said, I think the best thing I have to give my students is my authentic self. So we're going to have to agree to disagree. And I don't think he liked that very much.
Ricky, there's part of me that's kind of like, just do you and whatever. But if I go to a nice steak place, nice dinner, I want the other people there to be dressed nice because it takes away from my experience. If I'm spending $250 on a meal and I look to my side and I see somebody wearing basketball shorts and sandals. So I just feel like as much as I don't dress up and I hate dressing up, I own one funeral suit. I just think that you gotta, there are certain times you need to present yourself more appropriately based on the event that you're at.
Look, I don't own a pair of dress pants. I don't own a suit jacket. But if I was going to the inauguration, even I would have bought something, and more just out of respect for
you'd have used some of that Kohl's cash you had.
The inauguration
you had that $30 in Kohl's cash. You would have popped over to Kohl's.
I got $30 in Kohl's. I would have gotten some gold toe socks, that I would have put inside the dress shoes that I had
some
to
Hager
buy.
Slacks.
Dressing for comfort is important. Maybe John Fetterman could use a pair of gusset crotch jeans. Ron, take it from me. If you enjoy street karate half as much as I do, you're going to want some gusset crotch jeans. You need that maximum crotch flexibility in order to kick the hell out of possible assailants. Ron, how are you going to be able to turn around and give somebody a savant type kick if you're constricted in the thigh and crotchal region? And much like Spinal Tap, I know men such as you and I, Ron, we have armadillos in our trousers. So we're going to need all the room that we can get. Maybe Ben Johnson would appreciate having some crotch room to kick the hell out of the Lions, the Packers, and the Vikings. Because the Bears' new head coach, and bear down, everybody, I'm very excited about Ben Johnson being the new head coach of the Chicago Bears. He's excited too, and we've got some footage of him going into Hallis Hall and talking to all the folks he's going to be working with there. Let's roll tape.
My family and I, we are beyond excited. This is exactly where we wanted to be. This is exactly where we wanted to be.
Where we want you.
This is going to be a challenge. I am well aware of that. I know what this division's about. And this is exactly where we want to be. We're going to go after this thing, and it's going to take all of us in this room. It's going to take this locker room. It's nothing more important than that locker room. And us.
Listen, I hope and optimism spring eternal anytime that there's a new coach hired. And we've all heard it said before, coaches are hired to be fired. And, you know, every number one draft pick is sparkly and new on draft day. And head coaches are sparkly and new when they come in and say all the positive things that coaches say. But I really am encouraged by the hire, Ron. Is I've criticized the Bears for posting that they're interviewing this guy and that guy and this guy. I do think this is the right hire. And so no matter what happens, even if this guy flames out in Chicago, I don't think he will. But even if he does, I'll never criticize the Bears for hiring him, because knowing what we know now in January of 2025, I believe they hired the best possible person for the job.
Dude, I'm just of the age where my brain immediately thinks of the Canadian sprinter when I hear the name Ben Johnson. I have to I need to reset and think about your new coach. But if I can give,
I hadn't thought about that until now. But yeah,
if I can give,
seed in my head.
If I can give Johnson and Ryan Pohl some advice, offensive lineman. That's who you should probably draft. Offensive lineman.
Yes. Well, it was our friend Mike Lombardi who said that, that they had a Madden roster. But speaking of blocking, Ronnie, I got blocked by my favorite writer of all time. And I don't know how I feel about it. I noticed last night, I went to check Bill James's Twitter page and it just said, Bill James has blocked you. And then I looked down at my bookcase and you see my rather extensive collection of Bill James books, those baseball abstracts, the ones from 82 to 85, I purchased later, but the 86 edition, that's the same book that I've had since 1986. I bought that when I was 14 years old, and now my favorite writer, I find, has decided that I'm below replacement level on the X platform, and he let me have it. So that's my first what the fuck. What the fuck, Bill James? So what the fuck, Bill? And let me chase that with the more familiar. What the fuck, Ron?
Have you ever been in a situation like you're not at home, you're not at a restaurant, I don't know, maybe you're taking a walk, I don't know, just someplace. There's no stove, there's no microwave, and you're just like, man, I could go for some soup right now. Has that ever happened to you?
Listen, I'm not a big soup guy, but when a craving for soup comes on, that shit is real. Sometimes when you want soup, your body just decides that you need some soup. So once in a while, yes, I can relate to that.
And you, my friend, are not alone, because the good folks at Progresso knew that there's a lot of people that get these soup cravings and they just don't have the ability to have soup. So they've come up with a new product, sold out in an hour. They cost $2.49. They are basically hard candy that tastes like soup, Ricky. You just pop one of those suckers in your mouth and you got soup.
All right. I'm going to maybe surprise you. I'm going to maybe surprise you, Ron.
Okay.
I'd have to taste it. But I wouldn't mind having one of those right now. I think I'm in on this product.
Really?
I legitimately would not mind having one of those.
Okay.
I'm not saying I would want one all the time. I'm not going to pop one in my mouth before I go to my girlfriend's house, but I like that. When I was a kid, I liked the bouillon cubes. Yeah. Whatever. I like that chicken soup flavor. And if that's concentrated and gives me a little bit of that flavor, I could see myself enjoying one of those. I'm not even kidding you.
Yes, because of our body temperatures, our saliva isn't cold, and so our saliva would mix with that, and maybe it would just. But I just think there'd be such a disconnect when you unwrap that thing. Your brain's thinking candy, and then you get in there and it's salty and savory. I just feel like there'd be a wild disconnect.
You got to get away from thinking candy. You got to go into it understanding what you're getting. You got to say, like, do I need a little salty savory right now? Am I feeling I want a little bit of that, but I don't really want to eat anything? You know, something like that might get me through to the, might get my
It might help with weight loss, right? It could help with a little weight loss.
I'm saying it might. It might. Yeah. So, Ron, I hear it's snowing in Florida. What the fuck is going on with that?
So you're familiar with the Gulf of America, the newly coined Gulf of America? Well, they had a snowstorm from Texas to Florida. Look at these numbers, Ricky. Milton, just north of Pensacola, 9.8 inches of snow. 6 in Panama City.
I didn't realize it was that much.
Yeah, dude. There was 4 inches in Houston. There was 7.5-ish in Baton Rouge. I know that we I don't know if we're going to be able to get them up, but we've got a video of there's Florida, what Florida looks like. Orange Beach, which is down, there's Orange Beach down in Alabama.
So we might have. Dude, is this just shut down the state? Because like in Kentucky, if it snows an inch or two,
there's
in Kentucky,
Baton Rouge right there. Look at that. That's
milk or bread.
That's where LSU plays football. So Ricky, 2,000 flights were canceled on Tuesday. 1,000 canceled today. So understand, we talked about this when we had to do some movement with the shows because everything's happening in Nashville, because we don't have the ability to remove snow, but we have some snow removal equipment. It's not like Chicago. They have none. Like they have none. That's crazy.
A real problem.
Yeah, crazy.
All right, yeah, here we get 5 or 6 inches here, and they clear it with ruthless efficiency. Although my kids' high school was canceled a couple of days ago due to the cold, Ron, and I tweeted yesterday, it's -1 in Chicago. Any temperature that looks like it should say Scotty Scheffler just to the left of it is unacceptable to me. When the temperatures start sounding like scratch golfer scores, I got an issue with that.
Hey, OutKick fans on YouTube, if you enjoyed this episode, hit the subscribe button and make your way over to OutKick.com where you can watch the full episode.